Hi, welcome to Cafe 229. Today, we're very honored and happy to have Dr. Jimmy Yu. Dr. Jimmy Yu is a religious professor from Florida State University, and he's also the founding Dharma teacher of Tallahassee Chan Center. Today, Dr. Jimmy Yu is going to share with us about what is Chan and how Chan can be applied to our society and cultivate compassion. Hi, Dr. Yu. Well, actually, I know you for so many years. We always call you Goku, so I'm going to call you Goku from here on. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you.
Thank you
for the invitation.
Thank you so much to be here. Well, it's great that we have a Chan master to be with us, a great Chan teacher to be with us here. A few days ago, I was walking in Flushing, and I bumped into a few young men, good young men. They're Mormons. So they come up to me and they want to talk about religion. So I say, hey, that's a great, that's great that you guys doing very nice and spiritual things. So they asked me a good question. They're like, so if there's one key message about Buddhism, what would that be? So I'm going to use that to start the conversation. What would you say to them? What would be the key message?
I would say the key message is relationships. Now, in technical terms, if you ask different Buddhist traditions, they will, automatically jump to different, doctrinal teaching and something specific. But, typically when someone asks what is the essence of Buddhism, they may point to the teaching of emptiness, teaching of, interdependence, or selflessness, teaching of wisdom and compassion. All of these things actually point to relationships.
So relationship is sort of the key message here. Can you elaborate more how relationship matters in Chan or Chinese Zen?
So, as I mentioned, the teaching of emptiness, this is probably the most important teaching. And usually that's interpreted as dependent origination, which points to the interdependence of all things. Like this altar behind me, it's a piece of wood. Wood comes from a tree. Tree comes from seeds. And there needs to be various conditions that bring about this tree. The sun, the oxygen, the quality of soil, and then the lumberjack, and all these different things come together. So Buddhist teaching focuses on that interdependence of all things and the absence of tableness. Right? So table is made up of non-table. Table is made up of everything else.
Right.
So that non-table is the teaching of emptiness. So the teaching of emptiness and interdependence are intimately connected. Now, putting that in practice at the working end of spiritual cultivation, meditation practice, our daily life as practice, what this is really talking about is not seeing things from a narrow kind of tunnel vision, self-referential perspective, but seeing things in terms of relationships. So the essence of the teaching of emptiness and interdependence is actually about relationships. Does that make sense? So when we practice, the way we relate to the body, the way we relate to other people, if we see and start to experience and cultivate and embody this way of recognizing, validating the interconnectedness, the relationship of everything and everyone, then our choices, our decisions, and our priorities change. And that leads to wisdom. That insight is wisdom, and how it manifests is compassion.
I
Does
see.
that make sense?
Yeah. So it seems like we have this sort of default way of looking at things. We tend to see things as a thing, right? That's what you're saying. Our sort of default cognitive distortion, we tend to see constancy when the reality is a flux. We tend to see a table as table, like having a table is a thing, right? A cup is a cup, but without seeing the relationship behind it. That's sort of our fundamental problem.
Yeah, I mean, seeing a table as a table is not a real big problem, you know. It's innocuous, but you know, things like that, little things like that, go unnoticed, especially in the ways where we relate to people. Very complicated, right?
Okay.
So we have this tendency that's gonna go unnoticed, and when we are engaging with the world, with circumstances is more complicated. We also tend to reify, solidify, and othering things as unchanging. And then we deny their agency and we deny their relationship to us. We actually belong to the world. We are the world. Everything, we're supported by everything. So recognizing that, you know, in the little things that we do, even a cup or a table, we take care of it. We can cherish. And when we translate that to, you know, different social problems that we're witnessing now, we're able to respond in a more compassionate way, with insight. You know, not be so distracted by our own kind of self-referential values and opinions, and are caught up in our own little world.
Right.
But recognize that our world, what sustains our world, is actually everyone else, everything else, the ebb and flow of the society, the social ills.
Right.
So Chan practice, when the person goes deep into oneself, one recognizes the interdynamic relationship between body, mind, breath, and all the habit tendencies, but extending outward, they also recognize the interconnectedness of all things. So for a Chan practitioner, they're able to cultivate, this is what the aim is, to cultivate the ability to see what needs to be done and what can be done, and recognize the interdependence of resources and how we can address certain social issues.
So although when I say seeing a cup with this cupness is just a minor problem, but what we're really doing is when we start to see ourselves and other as objects, you start to create oppositions, and we start to see the world in more this self-referential way of this kind of attitude, right? Right. So that's where the problem is. But if we can recognize that this cup is made up by everything that's not the cup, we can also start to recognize what makes us is coming from many helping hands. That's where the insights start coming.
Yeah, we're made up of the world. You know, we exist because of everyone. So naturally, we want to not to forsake, close our ears and blind our eyes to what's happening around us.
Yeah,
we want to help other people. It's like helping ourselves.
Yes. So I'm like you. I'm teaching a bunch, college kids, right? And sometimes when I talk about this concept that you are made up by the world, you are coming from many helping hands. Conceptually, they say they get it, but I'm not sure they really get it experientially. How do Chan or Chinese Zen help people to sort of become more free from that kind of self-referential attitude. Because concept is kind of different than experience.
Yes, of course. Being linguistic beings, we are habituated and conditioned to a great extent by words and language.
Yeah.
So it's important, and then the nature of words and language is to divide, segregate, reify, solidify. That's the nature of words and language.
Right.
Now they help us to navigate through daily life, but most people mistake the labels of words and language for the actual thing itself. So Chan's approach is not be so tethered to words and language, to cut through, not depend so much on words and language, and learn to embody the Buddhist teaching. So most people are up in the head. So the way I focus on the teaching is to provide the circumstances and conditions, such as, we build this meditation center. We have different programs, online, in person. Slowly, we're doing in person again, to provide the circumstances that allow them to be more in contact with their body, to be more in tune with the body. So cut through the veil of words and language and concepts, and have specific effective methods, meditation methods, so they can actually come to know themselves. What is it like to be relaxed? What does the shoulder feel like? How does the abdomen feel like? And once the defense mechanism of tension is diffused, then they'll be able to access and pick up on the subtle undercurrent feeling tones that's actually shaping their perception and the way they think, the way they conceptualize. A lot of time these feeling tones, which is, it's not quite like emotions, which are like full-fledged, feelings. What I'm talking about is more like mood. It's more like attitude.
Right.
So, if a person's feeling good, cheerful, I'm not talking about, kind of verbalization of that. Hey, I'm very happy today.
Right.
It's this undercurrent tone, If they feel like that, then the way they perceive things, the way they explain what's happening to them, it's very different than if their mood is, not so good.
Right.
So usually people are not aware of how they actually feel, which is the sad part, because they're caught up with objects.
Yeah.
They're caught up with tension. They actually responded to their own physical tension without knowing. So once that tension is diffused, then they can access how they actually feel. Then they come to know how to cultivate that, right? As a good foundation for concentration development and clarity. Right? So it's a very embodied approach to meditation practice.
So it's very experiential. It's not concept at all. It's like, in order to catch how you view the world, you kind of have to learn to experience it, to expose it in some way.
Yeah.
This remind me, I was just talking to one of my clients a few days ago. He said he just started caught up how he has this tendency to put this color lens on everything he does and do. And he used a very interesting analogy. It's almost like he put a mayonnaise on everything. It's like this undercurrent feeling tones, almost like mayonnaise, right? It's as if he grew up without mayonnaise. So everything he experienced, he has to put on this invisible mayonnaise. So
let me make sure I get you right. Mayonnaise as in the white food?
Right. You know, like a secret.
Mayonnaise.
Yeah. Manly.
Put on bread.
Yeah, mayonnaise. Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
Like a coat of it.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's like, and I think I think that's a nice analogy because that's what we do all the time. All of us, in some way, are putting our sort of missing ingredient, our favorite ingredient, on everything, right? Like it's like
Yeah.
if your parents brought you up without salt, now you learn to put salt on everything. Doesn't matter if it needs it or not.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good analogy. I remember my teacher, Master Shen Yan, who's your teacher too.
Sure.
Used to say most people have this layer of Elmer's glue, just kind of sticky. Elmer's glue in the way they see things, just kind of fogs up everything. So it's important to start to peel it away.
Right.
So we actually see things and experience things as they are.
Sure.
It's closer.
Sure. Well, of course, I'm very happy to have you here because I learned a lot from you as well. So you, not just from Master Shen Yan, but also from you, I learned a lot. A lot of my Chan knowledge is really from your teaching. So it's great to have our conversation here. And so I would say that one thing that makes Chan different than other school of thought is Chan really pay a lot of attention on experiential training. It's not just talking. I mean, it's one thing to talk about how we add this secret ingredient in life, but it's another thing to really catch it and expose it.
Yes, this embodied approach, the ways in which and the mechanisms through which we put that layer of mayonnaise, glue on, it's intimately connected with our bodies, actually. Our body feels. When this body is in space, interacting with the world, interacting with people, our bodies has an intelligence that it has learned to respond to circumstances before prefrontal cortex start to formulate ideas and notions.
That's right.
Before.
Yeah. Right.
So this is a kind of preconceptualized, embodied experiencing of the world. So the way to understand how we put that layer of mayonnaise is to build that foundation of being in tune with the body. Just like as you're listening to me now, the audience is listening to me now.
Right.
How does the body actually feel? Where's the tension? How's the body responding?
All right.
Don't think about it. Just be in the body, through the body, experiencing it.
Right.
So the more one's, the tension may be at the chest, the tension may be in the stomach, or if we close our eyes and sense where the bodily weight is. For most people, it's actually up here. Right?
Interesting.
So, so if we can try it now. Close our eyes. Where's the sense of weight? So that means when it's up here, we're kind of processing things, conceptually.
Yeah.
And it's trailing off as a person's talking, trailing off, some ideas, related notions, questioning, all that. So we're not really with the person. We're not even with ourselves.
Right.
So if we listen, not like when we're having conversation with people, it's almost like not allow our ears, our listening to go out, but embodied here, grounded here, allow the voice to come to us. Then we're embodied and we can hear actually very clearly what the person is saying. Even clearer than the speaker, possibly, where the question is actually coming from. And when we see, instead of going out, grabbing this and that, kind of distracted by all the forms and shapes and colors, allow these to be grounded here. So allow the sight, allow the sound to to come to us. So we're like an open receiver, and we're grounded in the body. That way, like that's how we practice as practitioners. So through that way, we actually will be able to cultivate the ability to actually see very clearly what needs to be done, what can be done with regard to our interactions, our life, our socio-political life, responding to what the society needs.
Yes.
And the voices that we hear, criticism from people, where is it coming from? And not get caught up with the words. Right? Right. So that is a practitioner. So it's very embodied practice, because our body has this ability, preconceptual ability to respond in a certain way. Right? When someone's present that's kind of tense, we actually feel it in the body.
Yeah.
Right?
That's right.
When a person is very friendly, very likable, we also feel it in the body. We feel at ease when we're next to the person. Right. We feel comfortable. Right? So being in tune with that embodied way of experiencing the world, that will help us get right out of our headspace. Not that we don't conceptualize anymore.
Right.
We can conceptualize quite clearly, but we're not so tethered, kind of locked into these ideas and notions and ruminations and stories that we create. We're actually much more grounded. So that's what people need these days.
So it sounds like it does take some good time to practice this kind of skill to be able to experience the reality as much as possible, right? To directly experience the reality without adding the extra flavor to things. It does takes time to train.
It takes time, but as much time as we devote to this is as much time we benefit from it. So it's not like there's an eventual goal, like if I only can get there, or see things as they are, then I'll be fine. No, if we devote 1 minute at a time, like I teach my student, like I call it 1 Manhattan minute Chan, 1 minute Chan. So you remember that, right? So 5 times a day, 1 minute each time. In that minute, relax, ground, engage. Right? So you don't have to wait for the future to, to be enlightened or whatever. You can benefit now. So it takes time. Yes, it takes commitment right now in this moment. So if we devote ourselves 5 minutes a day, 1 minute at a time, 5 different occasions, same flight of stairs, same distance we walk, same elevator ride, these routines that we have in daily life, first bite of lunch, if we engage with those in an embodied way, the benefit is immediate. Immediate. In those moments, we're embodied, we're relaxed, we're grounded. You see?
Yeah.
So present moment. Don't necessarily think about, it'll take time. Because as soon as we frame it as it's going to take some time, oh gosh, it's going to be some commitment. I don't have time, maybe it's a good idea, but I don't have time to do it. No one has an excuse, because do you eat? Do you walk? Do you use a computer? Do you sit?
Right.
Do you go to the toilet? 1 minute. So that is the beginning of living our life fully connected. Relationships.
Yes.
See, that's the key of Dharma practice. Relationships.
Relationship
with ourselves and others.
Which go back to my encounter with the Mormon youngsters in Flushing. The answer I gave was a little bit different. You use relationship. The answer I gave is compassion. That was the answer I gave. So can you elaborate a little bit on how relationship and compassion is related, and how can we practice Chan in a way that make us a bit more compassionate?
Well, emptiness, the wisdom of emptiness and compassion is actually the same thing. One is the essence or the insight. The other one is actually the natural outflow expression. Right. So how does that relate to relationships or connections?
Right.
You could say that this embodied experiencing of relationships with ourselves, different aspects of our body, mind, spirit, breath, extending outward to this embodied experiencing of the world, is actually the concrete foundation to both insight, the wisdom of emptiness, selflessness, and how that manifests in compassion. So very often, in traditional Buddhism, wisdom and compassion, there's all kinds of theories about it. There's 18 types of emptiness, there's this compassion, there's 4 different types of compassion. So it becomes, again, like a conceptual knowledge. But really, for Chan practitioners, at the working end of our practice is really about connection. Being able to connect with ourselves, being able to connect with the world in an embodied way. So the connection is it's inseparable, this foundation. Otherwise, we run the risk of just studying Buddhism, just like studying any worldly knowledge, up in the head, in the head. Now, when a person, the beautiful thing about this embodied approach to Dharma practice, focusing on relationships, is that it's concrete and it makes us feel connected. And we're actually able to experience this connectedness with ourselves and the world. And that serves as a foundation for us to respond to what can be done and what needs to be done in the world around us. And that is compassion. It's just like the founder of C.A.F.E, Venerable Master Zhen Yan.
Right.
That compassion is actually embodied. She herself, embodies that, work towards that all of her life. And the focus is on action. The focus is on connecting with people, connecting with the world. So I cannot stress enough that relationship between connection, relationships, as the embodied expression of compassion. And it puts wisdom in action. Right? So it's only through connections, only through forms, people, that we realize emptiness. Right? Emptiness is relationships. Right? It's just another way of saying dependent origination. Now, living in our world, in the United States, it's unlike a country, a place in which 99% of the people are of the same race. In those places are self-referential attachments and cravings and aversion expressing other ways. But in the United States, because of the over 330 million people that live here, 13% of it, over 13% of it are blacks. And there's a historic prejudice, exploitation, and deprivation for blacks
Right.
in the history. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And then for the Browns, for the Brown, there's something like 18%, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there's 5 or 6% of Asians, East Asians, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this is a very unique space in which multiple ethnicities are interacting on a daily basis.
Mm-hmm.
And because of this interaction, there's friction.
Yeah.
And the manifestation of our vexations, our discrimination, actually manifest racially. Racially. It doesn't really manifest that way in China, where everyone's Chinese, or Taiwan, everyone's Taiwanese, and Japanese, everyone's Japanese. But so there's some specificity to the conditions of the United States,
right,
and the history of it. So Buddhism in the United States has to address and respond to racial healing. Racial healing. And that's what Dharma Relief 2, our second initiative, is addressing. Dharma Relief 1 was, soliciting dozens of support of different Dharma centers and teachers come together to help hospitals. Dharma Relief emerged at a time in which hospitals were short of masks, PPEs, personal protection equipment, and all the Dharma practitioners, different traditions, we all want to do something about it, but we didn't have the conditions, right? So Dharma Relief emerged out of that instance, because Dharma Drum has made connections with manufacturers of masks, FDA approved masks, in mainland China, which supplied over 50% of PPEs in the world, even prior to COVID. Right? So they are mass producers of this. So there are many factories that are FDA approved, and because of political tension, U.S. didn't really draw from that resource.
It was a tough time.
But Dharma centers, we can bypass all the politics. We just contacted factories, and we are able to raise over $600,000, sent to hundreds of hospitals in North America that needed masks. We're able to partner with humanitarian organizations in that process that focus on shipping, right? These Western secular humanitarian organization in that process. So following that, the tragic murder of George Floyd gave rise to so much racial reckoning. It was a crescendo in which not only Buddhists, of course, all the people in North America wanted to do something about it. And that's the birth of DR2. So we, that's our second initiative, to focus on racial healing,
one thing
racial
I'm very
trauma healing.
One thing I'm very impressed about the Dharma Relief Project is that it's really about connection. You're able to bring different Buddhist organizations and work together on a bigger goal, bigger mission, which is not easy to do, I would imagine, to bring different Buddhist organizations, Buddhist associations to work together on something that's meaningful to the country. So your DR2, Dharma Relief 2, is going to be focusing on racial healing. How exactly are you planning to do that in your DR2 project?
Well, first, it is kind of unique, I must say, but it's due to causes and conditions that these centers are able to come together, you know, and the connections that Dharma Drum have made, Master Shen Yen, you know, a lot of these teachers at different Dharma centers, they all are aware of his work. So, you know, when I approached them, I was able to very easily, and some of them are aware of my work. So it wasn't that hard. And it's not because, you know, our merit. It wasn't that hard because everyone wanted to do something about that, you know.
Yeah.
The mask. And same thing here. Everyone has the heart to do something about this racial reckoning,
Right.
to amplify the voices of Black Dharma teachers. So what we are doing is it's actually threefold. We have 3 tracks. First one is to amplify and support Black and Brown Dharma teachers, right? Through something that we're modeling on, and that is the universal basic income that has been studied by scholars, has been experimented in different places of the world, you know, Alaska, Finland, even China. You know, there's some research about that. To provide basic income without requesting them to fulfill a particular need, this would help them to establish a kind of a cushion, if you will, to have basic needs of survival. And in our current, you know, economic, political climate in which people are losing jobs, this is so needed. So usually in the United States, you know, mainstream Buddhist voices, let's say, come out of the privileged, the economically privileged.
That's true. Yes.
White Dharma centers. White Dharma centers.
Yeah.
It's normal because 70% of people are white. In America, naturally, there's the larger percentage, right?
Right.
But the Dharma, it's so useful, so beneficial, especially for the underprivileged, the subaltern, the people that needs it, you know? So what better way to do that, to facilitate, support Black and Brown Dharma teachers? They're more equipped experientially to address or redress the needs of kind of Black communities, you know, the people of color. So the first track is to support through a stipend, a scholarship, desperately needing to raise funds. We're just begun yesterday, actually, raising funds to do this first track. Second track, as for the existing white Dharma centers or non-Black Dharma centers, teachers such as Asian Dharma centers, Dharma Drum, all the Japanese Dharma centers, Jodo Shu, Jodo Shinshu, and Tsuji, to be part, to recognize and value the kind of momentum that American Buddhism is experiencing and steering towards, right? To be part of this history, to engage with racial healing, right?
Right.
And how do we do that? Diversity, inclusiveness, and equity training programs. So for the Black and Brown Dharma teachers, stipend, right?
Right.
To help them to develop a cushion so they can engage with their Dharma work, travel expenses and all of that, right? We're supporting them to support the Dharma. Right? For the other, white and Asian Dharma centers, of which there are numerous, right? We're offering scholarships so they can undergo varying degrees from very committed to only a weekend workshop, which is also very, very important, very good, to engage in these diversity, inclusiveness, and equity training programs, so they're more informed to how to make their space, Dharma space, temples, safe and welcoming for people of color.
Right.
So that's the second track. And the third track is all the 14 Dharma teachers and leaders on the board of DR2 for ourselves to go through these training programs. So we continually work on ourselves and inform ourselves of the need and our own biases. So these three tracks are something that we're offering and we're sharing to the Buddhist world, and we encourage everyone to join us. Already, Lions Roar magazine have published something.
I read that.
Something on DR2. And Shambhala, whom I published with, they're also getting ready to amplify DR2, along with dozens of meditation centers and practitioners. So this is not like one center is doing this.
Sure.
It takes a whole village of Dharma centers and teachers to collectively join our efforts. So this is something that's never happened before, in a systemic way, in a unified way, putting down sectarian divides, coming together to address some social issues.
No, I'm very happy to hear this kind of project. You're really pulling everyone together to work on the same problem, which is racial conflict, and takes everyone's effort to really deal with this issue in a more systematic way. So I really hope the best for your project, and I hope it's become successful.
Thank you. I hope all the people, your audience, are able to be more aware of this. At the very minimum, explore our website, Dharma Relief, and support our cause.
Yeah, definitely. Everyone should check out the Dharma Relief project for sure. Any final words for us, Goku?
Relationships. We live in a world in which we're not isolated. We may feel that we're isolated, involving my own life, my own family, my job, my small circle of friends, but every aspect of our lives are supported, interconnected with everyone else. So it's important to connect with ourselves first, start with our bodies, how we actually feel, how our feeling tones are actually shaping our discriminations, our choices and actions, and to be able to do something about that. And in the way that we connect and relate with other people, and then broadening so that we are part of the world existing us. It's natural for us to be part of something greater than ourselves, the world. What does this society need? How can I contribute? Right? So there are a lot of great organizations out there, but there's nothing like this organization in which the Dharma Relief is bringing together multiple Chinese, Japanese, Vietnamese, and Western Dharma centers, teachers of all lineages. So this is something much greater than ourselves. So that's one way to build that relationship.
Yes. So, thank you so much. Relationship and connection are the foundation for compassion. So Goku, thank you so much again for coming to us. We're really happy to have you. It's really a pleasure having a conversation with you.
Thank you, Peter.
Thank you, Goku.
Best of luck with everything that you do.
I hope you enjoy our conversation. Remember, connection and relationship is the foundation of compassion. If you like our conversation, please come back for more. Every month, third Friday is the Cafe 229. Stay tuned.